Have you ever thought to yourself, you know what I need? A phone that has a display that can go up to 4,500 nits, is loaded up with AI, has up to 5 flipping cameras on it, can airdrop files to my iPhone carrying friends, and you know what? For good measure, I'd like it to have an IR blaster so I can use it as a universal remote. Well, guess what, my friends? The Find X8 and Find X8 Pro have all of those things. This video is sponsored by OPPO, and we're gonna be taking a look at them. First and foremost, both are loaded up with MediaTek's new Dimensity 9400 chipset, meaning that even though one is Pro and one is not, both actually were found to have very similar performance when we ran them through our labs testing. But before we get to that, let's do a quick unboxing and have a look at what's included. Whoa, no way! An actual charging brick! What were they thinking? Nobody does that anymore. Not only that, but in 240 volt regions, these included chargers will do up to 80 watt wired charging with these phones, and over wireless, they're rated at, what was it, up to 50 watts? That is flipping wild. Oh, they also include a USB-C cable, but on the subject of USB-C, that is the first big difference between the non-Pro and the Pro. The non-Pro uses USB 3 for slower file transfers, while the Pro uses USB 3.2 for much faster wired file transfers. The last unboxing bits are, oh, look at that. They include a case. There we go. Both include cases, though in different colors, and as you can see, they are not intercompatible. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the physical differences between these devices. The screen on the Pro is ever so slightly larger at 6.78 inches versus 6.59. They also have a noticeably different shape, with the screen on the non-Pro being a little bit more rounded at the corners, even though the device itself is a little more kind of squared off and blocky, while the Pro has more rounded corners. I'm trying to think if there's a device that the shape of the non-Pro reminds me of. Why don't we use this opportunity to have a look at one of their highlighted features, which is the ability to airdrop files to your iPhone owning friends. Totally unrelated thing to bring that out right now while we discuss the shape of this phone though. Okay, let's go ahead and give it a shot. To do so, we just use a familiar gesture to bring down the quick settings, and then go ahead and click Share with iPhone. I guess I need an app. Now, oh, let's take a quick picture. How about a selfie? Cool. We've got O Connect. Okay, Share with iPhone. One device connected. Hey! All right. Well, it took a couple of attempts, but we did manage to get the file downloaded. And look at that, in glorious full quality. Oh, I guess now's as good a time as any to talk about the cameras. You either get 3 rear cameras on the non-Pro or 4 rear cameras on the Pro. And I'm gonna have to pull up my notes here because I'm gonna have a hard time remembering how many megapixels they all are. So they're, let's see, 50 megapixels, 50 megapixels, 50 megapixels, 50, 50, 50, and 50. In all seriousness, I do need my notes, but it's for the focal lengths and features. So on the non-Pro, we've got a 24mm wide, that one has optical image stabilization. Then we've got a 73mm telephoto, that has 3x optical zoom and optical image stabilization. And we've also got a 15mm 120-degree ultra wide. Moving over to the Pro, we get a 23mm wide with optical image stabilization, a 73mm periscope telephoto with 3x optical zoom, a 135mm periscope telephoto with optical image stabilization and 6x optical zoom, and finally, a 15mm 120-degree ultra wide. Both of them, as you would expect for a modern device, are getting software and AI image enhancement, and both of them have a 32-megapixel front-facing selfie camera. All right, let's try out the camera, shall we? I love this shot in the studio here. It's a very challenging condition because we've got the studio lights firing right into the lenses, but it happens a lot because I don't know what it is, but you ask someone to take a picture for you, you're out hiking or whatever, it's like they go out of their way to have some kind of light source go right into the lens. Pretty sharp, actually. Not bad, and surprisingly, they're not overjuicing the contrast and saturation. I wanna play around with the telephoto, so let's take some more pictures of our producer, Bell. Oh yeah, look at him over there. There's a little bit more detail in the Pro. Little bit more resolution. Both really solid though. Of course, the Pro has even more in the tank. Let's go ahead and take a 6x. Okay, can we get even more detail out of the 6X. Wow, look at that. You can almost make out some of the markings on the not actually a component, actually a D-brand skin here. Look at the texture of your jeans, Belle. Look at this. I mean, okay, in all seriousness though, yeah, it actually looks really good. Last thing, selfie. I'm expecting these to be very similar, but there's no doubt in my mind that the camera is a little bit better on the Pro, as you would probably expect. That's actually a lot of detail on a selfie camera. I don't see any kind of measurable difference here though, which makes sense. They are both spec'd the same. Hey, I wonder what we can do with the AI editor. Let's see. I can remove reflections, I can unblur, I can AI eraser, and I can enhance clarity. Let's try to take a bad picture. I just gotta quick launch the camera, so now's as good a time as any to show you guys the
quick button
on the Pro model. Is it just a button? It's just a button. It just felt like a squeeze. Okay, it's totally just a button. Anyway, you double tap it to launch the camera. Okay, I'm gonna try to take a bad selfie with some weird guy behind me. Okay, now, I just need to get rid of this guy. Smart lasso. Okay, get the heck out of my picture. Compare. You know what? Actually not stupid. Now let's change gears and talk about the screens. OPPO says that these panels are capable of hitting up to 4,500 nits. Then we hit about 800 nits peak brightness in SDR mode on both devices, about 1,000 in HDR in the balanced performance profile, and anywhere from around 1,600 to 1,800 depending on the window size in high performance mode with auto brightness enabled on both of these phones. So those are perfectly acceptable modern HDR results, even if they're 4,500 nits is more to do with maybe the peak capabilities of this panel under isolated circumstances and less to do with what you'll actually see on this phone. I'd like to see them just not talk about that at all, to be perfectly honest with you. Let's look at what some HDR content looks like on it, shall we? Okay, there we go. Yep, that's HDR, all right. Can confirm. Curiously, we found that HDR on both of the phones performed lower than we would expect, with auto brightness enabled and in their balanced performance profile. So until OPPO issues a fix for that, we would probably recommend running the phone in the higher performance mode. Shall we listen to some Crab Rave? Hit that volume slider. Amplified earpiece speaker. Pretty okay, pretty loud. Definitely some distortion toward the top end after about 70% volume. Let's try the non-pro. Also has an amplified earpiece speaker for stereo sound. Very similar result, maybe a touch worse. Oh, on the subject of hitting the volume rocker, we never really did like a physical tour of these things. So both of them have that IR blaster up on the top. Man, I needed an IR blaster so bad the other day, like so bad. The remote was missing for something and I had to change something and it was like actually a disaster, and because I've switched to the iPhone and my old Samsung doesn't have an IR blaster, it like really sucked. Anyway, that's a cool feature to have that time that you need it or if it's part of your flow. On the right, we've got our lock button as well as our volume rocker, and then on the Pro model, the
quick button,
which felt like a squeeze button, has really nice haptics, but it turns out is just a button. Other side, love this alert slider. The ability with a quick slide to change from silent to vibrate to ring is, so nice to have. They've both got that. It's a good time to talk about charging. In our testing, both phones charged up in an hour and both lasted for about 19 hours in spite of the Pro's larger battery. So it looks like that larger battery is pretty much just going towards the slightly larger display. Let's try Critical Ops. Oh boy, that is quite the download. I guess now's as good a time as any to say it has Bluetooth 5.4 and Wi-Fi 7 though. And once we get our game actually launched, it has a 120 Hz display for more fluid visuals. I gotta say, man, MediaTek has come a long way. The fact that we're not just saying, oh yeah, well, it's got a MediaTek chipset, so forget about it, is pretty impressive. Like, these are not the highest benchmark scores we've ever seen, but they are completely fine. I can't do this. I'm gonna get him. No, what, come on! How did that not hit? Coming back to both phones, there's a few things I haven't talked about yet. They're both IP69, IP68 dust, and water resistant. They both apparently have had a lot of work done on their antenna arrays, as well as software to ensure that they get the best possible data reception. And they both are available in a variety of colorways with up to 1 terabyte of storage. It's not gonna come cheap. Even the 512 gig version, when we convert from Indonesian rupiah, which is the only pricing we have, ends up at around $1,000 and around $1,250. But hey, if you want a lot of storage on your phone, I guess that's the way to do it now that micro SD slots are out of fashion. Overall, they both pack a surprising amount of performance and features into a relatively compact and lightweight package. And while ColorOS would have been a downside way back in the day, one of the things we do for ShortCircuit is we'll search like this thing controversy to see kind of what the community is saying. And ColorOS has grown extremely well regarded over the last little while, and they're both shipping with ColorOS 15. So if you guys wanna check these out, hey, thanks to OPPO for sponsoring this video, and we'll have these linked down below. Subscribe to ShortCircuit.